Welcome everyone to the NPT Community Wonder Chair class. Today's class is definitely an introductory or basic to introductory level class, and we will be going through a lot of the basic to introductory exercises. But the main theme of today that I would like us to go through is our relationship with the chair. And when I say our relationship with the chair, it's the nature of the chair and how it actually moves, and then how do we actually harness that movement to be able to get the most out of our exercises and the most out of our body. So then when we look at a chair, yes, it has a moving pedal. However, a lot of the time what we see is that the pedal relationship is up and down. Yet when we look at the pedal, it has an arc in its swing. So as it comes up, it swings back into the chair. Then as it comes down or it gets pressed down, it swings out from the chair. And so our relationship with the chair really should be a arc relationship. So where there is up, there is in towards the chair, and when there is down, there is out away from the chair. Or we could think of this as a push-pull relationship. So when we go through today's exercises, you will hear me talk a lot about either a pull towards or a pull away. And that is for us to try and be able to not just think of the pedal as an up-down mechanism, but an arcing mechanism as well, so we can get into our body a little bit better too. On that, what we also will need today is obviously our Wunda chair, but then also an arc, okay? I'm just using the end of a Pilates arc, but you could use a baby arc or even a spine corrector if that's all you have. And also potentially some hand weights that you're very comfortable with doing some arm supine work with as well. So then if we start off getting our chair set up so it's ready to go for our work, let's bring the pedal up and pop it probably somewhere around one top spring or so, and we'll just leave it set there. Okay, from there we're going to lay down onto our back, and we're just going to start off with going through some of our foundational exercises to get ourselves ready. So the first thing I would love you to do is to be able to lay down in your supine position and just relax. Don't try and set yourself in a position yet. I just want you to relax and listen to your breath. Is it deep? Is it a little bit high and short? Does your body reciprocate that breathing as well? Does it feel sort of stiffened up in certain areas, or feels like it can really spread into the mat? Good. And so now while you're here, just breathing normally still, I want you to start to find what is our version of our setup, our neutral positioning. That's a good way for us to understand our benchmark of positioning when we do go and do things on the Wunda chair, like our leg and footwork, and understanding where we sit in space and how we can actually work that in an upright positioning. So starting at the feet, do they have the balls of pressure into the big toe and the little toe? And then once again, almost like a spread and engagement around all 5 toes in that positioning. How does that then help with the archways? And then finally the pressure in the heel. From there you're linking those feet up through the legs and hopefully behind you in the back of the thighs till we get to the pelvis. Define the weight down into the back of the pelvis there. Look for that length. Can we find a low level active connection at the base of our pelvis, lengthening out towards our feet? Good. Does that find that you get the back of the lumbar into its nice little curvature of some slight lordosis into the back of the ribs and its weight following into the neck for its light little lordosis. And then the shoulders and arms have length, but some earthing into the floor without you overly jamming and pressing them down. From here, you're going to take a large, low belly breath. Once you get to the top of that belly breath, just breathe out and let it all come back to its original positioning. Did the body stay the same? Breathing in again. Finding the expansion of the trunk. And then breathing out. Letting that trunk return to its normal or starting position. Just one more here. And then letting it return. As we breathe, now change our breathing, we're going to breathe into the sides and backs of our ribs, or that posterolateral breathing. Feeling like you can take a smaller breath to work into the areas of the sides and backs of ribs. But be okay with some feeling around the top of the belly. Because as we widen those ribs, the diaphragm will naturally fall a little bit anyway, because it has to let the ribs expand. And so you don't want to overly choke down on that waistline to feel like you're trying to stop the diaphragm. And this is important for us being able to differentiate between being too controlling and letting the body move a little bit. Last breath. Keeping that same breathing and working into that philosophy of letting the body move a little bit to get our results, we're going to work into our imprints. So as you breathe out, let the pelvis roll between the legs. Notice how the lumbar starts to flatten into the mat, not jam into the mat. And then breathing in and taking that lumbar or that pelvis back into its lengthened position. Notice as when you work with that posterolateral breathing, if you get that acceptance around the ribs, and we can understand that the diaphragm moves a little bit, how much freer your imprint becomes. Good, we're just going to do about 2 more. Final one. From there, we're building that into our pelvic curl. So the same rules apply. As we breathe out, we let that pelvis roll, the low back absorb the roll into the ground. And if we've got that breathing into a position of acceptance of movement, how do we find that that spine and that rib cage rolls up to the top quite easily? Once we're there, you breathe in at this top and then breathe out to roll that back down. Working on that acceptance of breath and movement. Then once your pelvis makes contact with the ground, don't dump the weight out of it. Hold it. And almost feel like you roll yourself back into neutral without putting full weight of your pelvis right to the very end. So you've got this pulling mechanism in the back of your legs, which will be very important for when we get into some of these Wunda chair exercises. We breathe out again to roll back up. Still focusing on that relationship of the breath and acceptance of movement. And at the top, and then breathing out to roll that back down. Good, we're going to do 3 more now. Don't forget, when you're getting down to the bottom, don't dump the weight of the pelvis. More pull it back into its neutral before letting the weight become full on the mat. 2 more. Lucky last. Good. When we get back to that neutral positioning, I'm just going to get you to bring your arms out long and in front of you for chest lift 1. I want us to breathe out. We're going to reach through the arms to almost guide and assist how we lift up through the thoracic. Breathing in at the top and then breathing out to bring it back down. Letting the arms guide your movement in your body to be able to come up into that chest lift. We breathe out, reach through the arms to guide the torso. We're going to do 3 more. This is your last one. Good, and then laying it down and resting. From here, going into some of our single leg lifts. You're going to breathe out and you're just going to float one leg up to that tabletop positioning, just like you have in the past. When we get to the top there, I want you to find that weight back down of the thigh bone back into the hip socket, and almost find that there is a gentle internal pulling that has to happen to get that. And then back down. Good. And then from there, we're going to breathe out. We're going to go up on the other leg and almost start to find that internal pulling as soon as you start to lift. So you find that centering of the hip. And then down. Breathing out to come up. And in to come down. And just continue to alternate for about 2 more each side. Focusing on that internal pulling. And if you're feeling pretty good there, I just want you to bring the second leg up to meet it for the last rep. If not, you can take your feet down to the ground for our spine twists. Arms come out a little bit wider to about 45 degrees. And I just want you to breathe in and start to spin at the spine. Does what it says on the jar. We're trying to twist from the spine, and that's what brings the legs over. As you breathe out, to bring it back from the waist. And then over to the other side. And out to bring it home. Only take it as far as you feel that twisting of the spine, the twisting of the ribs, and that there is an expansion at the front of the shoulder. Not so much of you're having to drive and lift your back to keep that shoulder down. So I'm not trying to over push the extension in the thoracic for that rotation or that range. One more each side. Back to center, and then folding those legs down if they are up to the ceiling. If not, they should already be down. They're back into that starting position. And then we're going to bring the arms out and in front of us, in front, for hula one. And the reason we are doing chest lift one and hula one today, because it's basic to introductory, but also because this relationship with the pull of the arms and the torso is going to help us understand what it's like to work with our washerwomans and things like that when we're into our Wunda chair repertoire soon. And so from here, I just want you to breathe out. You're coming up through the center. Reset your breath for an inhale, and then breathe out. We're going to come up and over diagonally into our hula. Inhale back to the center. Exhale diagonally over. So yes, there is a twist involved, but there is still flexion involved, hence why it becomes diagonal, not a twist of the torso and the shoulders. So we're flexing over, adding our rotation, which creates this scoop or this diagonal lift, and back down. One more each side. Good, keep trying to work for that pull of the legs and the pelvis towards each other, like we did in our start position. And then back to center and down. Good. So from here, we're going to start to actually use a bit of the Wunda chair now, and we're going to go into some hamstring curls. So yes, usually an additional legs category, but we're going to bring it up quite early just to help us with our understanding of the pedal, but also the leg and footwork to follow after this as well. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get you to set yourselves up on that chair, and hopefully we've still got on that one top spring that when we set it up at the start. And I want you to set yourself so your feet are on the pedal, and I don't want you to be too rigid on the back of the heel. I'd like, for today's sake, for you actually to be on the pad of the heel at the very least. And if you find that quite uncomfortable, go to your arches. But we want that because I want you to actually feel like what it takes to actually find the whole pull of the foot to the hip, as opposed to being sort of very knee and on the back of the heels. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep our pedal where it is. We're thinking hips are just behind or above the knees, so the knees are a little bit further closer to the chair. And from there, all we're going to do, you got to find that start position. I want you to breathe out and work the pad of the heel to pull your heels to your buttocks. Forget about the pedal going down, it will naturally come down. Breathe in to bring it home. So don't get caught up in pushing the pedal down and it being all sort of like pelvis, bit of lumbar moves around, your knees. Find that start position, that neutral, that energy that you had to come out of things like your pelvic curl at the end, and also your imprints, but also just laying there. And then start to incorporate the pull of the heels to you. So we're pulling that pedal down and away from the chair. And you'll start to feel that in the back of the hamstrings. Even the calves as well, they are a knee flexor. Good, we're just going to do about 2 or 3 more, just so you get that feeling. Last one. And back. Well done. Nice. So from there, you're just going to roll onto your side and bring yourselves up to a quadruped position, just to find some engagement and printing in your body with less feedback, which is what the Wunda chair starts to challenge, right? So setting yourself up, hands under shoulders, knees underneath the hips, and just find that length out through the back of the ischials or the sits bones, all the way up to the length of the crown of the head. Find that your body is completely engaged as one with each other, as opposed to hanging your body off your shoulders. So there's a gentle push away from the floor. Good. And what does it take to be here? Even though it's not the same gravitational loading as when we sit you up, you've still got to find bits of the pelvis or bits of the hips to be able to find that pelvis stays set. Bits of your waistline to find that your lumbar and your torso or your thoracic stays where it needs to be. And so these concepts, even though they change slightly when we're sitting upright, they are all the same, just with different loadings. Last breath here. Good. Now from there, we are going to jump ourselves up and work on the leg and footwork. So for our leg and footwork, we're going to change the springs up, okay? And you want to be going at least 2 springs for our doubles, right? I'm going to choose something of a milder spring tension today. So 1 top, 1 bottom, and you're welcome to join me on that. But if you feel like you can't find, or you can't, when you press the pedal, that you start rocking about, or you start pushing your weight forward, or your weight gets pushed back, you might be finding that the spring is too heavy and you want to lighten it off. Or vice versa, that you're not feeling like you're getting that feedback onto the legs, that the pedal might be too hard or too light, and so you might be finding it hard to find that feedback and work too. So we're starting off 1 top, 1 bottom, okay? And I'm just going to bring you on top of the pedal, or on top of the seat, right? Feet are not on the pedal just yet. And what I want you to do is I want you to set yourselves up so you can put your feet flat on the ground, okay? Hopefully your chair is not too big that it allows you to do so. And from there I want you to find a position on the chair where you can find an upright seated position where you're on the front edge of your sits bones, okay? And that you can actually be able to maintain that by holding your body upright and working your body upright, but also the light pressure in your feet. So then when we add the pedal in, it is this concept that we're looking at, just with a bit of movement. So from there, you're going to take the pedal, you're going to place it down, yeah, and all of a sudden, you're back into that pressed position, okay? And then normally we do potentially start it up, but we're going to start it from down just so you can actually feel the push-pull a little bit better. So from that upright position, I want you to breathe in to pull the pedal in towards you, almost like you're pulling your heels to your buttocks. And then you breathe out and you press it slightly away. Pull the pedal in and up. And breathe out to press down and away. And so that in and up and that down and away, you should feel how there is a co-contraction or a co-activation of the legs to the pedal. Maybe just one more on our heels here. As we then move onto our toes for 8. And the same rules apply. It just gets a bit trickier because there's more of your body in the way of the pedal because you've added your feet into that space. Two more. Good. Heels just click together from there. And so this is now, the same rules will apply, but as you pull up, you need to be able to allow space in the thighs. So let the thighs not push out, but definitely spin outwards so you can find that suction of the thigh bone back into the hips. And if you haven't noticed, if you work your feet around that pedal, just sort of like what we did with our foundational work with our foot positioning and our setup, how that directly affects us straight back into the pedal and the body's work itself. Good, 2 more. Last one. Good. And then we're going to go into our heels wide. And the same thing here, like when you did our setup positioning, that heels pressure onto the pedal is very important, and that pullback of the heel almost to the pelvis itself, like we did in our supine setup position, directly refers back into your relationship here with the pedal press and also the pedal pull. We're still focusing on that arc, backwards and forwards of the pedal, not just an up and down. Good, let's go into our toes. And the same focus applies, it just gets a little bit tougher because the feet are now added into the space. So more body, less room. Three more. Two. Lucky last. And that concludes the end of the doubles. So from here we're going to continue with our leg and footwork. We are going to go into some standing calf press. Now if you found that spring tension relatively easy and accessible, keep your spring on the same tension. If you found it a little bit tricky, like it was a bit heavy, drop your spring tension down. So if we're still on like a top and a bottom, which I'm going to keep, you know, you might move it down to a middle and a bottom, or two bottom. From there, we're going to take our balls of our toes and they will go right onto our pedal itself, and that you're finding that spread of the toes, just like we did in our supine setup early on. From there, your fingertips want to be onto the box, and we're then going to take our knee and just place it above the edge of the box itself. The back foot should line up with our torso when we're at a fingertips distance, okay? With our length here, you're just going to stand out of the back leg as we start to wrap the foot to press that pedal down. And so when I say down, remember it's away. So you're trying to push the pedal down and away to work your calves. And so if you get that pedal press away as much as you do down, you'll start to feel the connection up through the balls of the toes, through the archway, and into those calves pretty quickly. But if you sort of just push it down, it almost feels like you're whipping at the pedal, so to speak. So find that push away, like the pedal is going down and away back to your standing leg. Good. Let's swap to the other side. That's it. Finding that stance, fingertips are on, standing out of the standing leg. So you're really finding that there is a double leg press here for engagement. And then you're pulling that pedal down and away from the seat of the chair. Very good, last one. Good. And then just bringing it back up from there. So we're going to keep it to one top spring. We are going to take the bottom spring off, ready for our washerwoman's. Okay. So look, one top spring, it's good. You know, if you're a male of my size, sometimes it's better to do two bottom springs. We'll start to get into that just because of my weight and for the feedback of the spring itself. Okay. So from here, what we're going to do is you're going to set yourself up for your washerwoman, stepping back and away from the pedal a little bit, right? And so, well, how far is too far? Well, you don't want to be where you can't reach the pedal. But what I tend to find is that if you were to put your leg up, you know, you're looking at like a thighs distance and a foot distance away. That's pretty good, okay? From there, what we're going to do is we're going to breathe out. We're going to roll ourselves down. To find that pedal. And then from that pedal, we're going to breathe in. And as we breathe in, we're going to keep pulling that pedal towards our shins to get that, bring that pedal down. Breathe out. Flex yourself to come back. As you breathe in again, start to pull that pedal in towards you. As we breathe out, flexing it back. In, pedal pulls towards you. You'll feel it as you pull that pedal towards you, that the back of your body starts to open up, and you get to find that ab work. And back. Just one more. And finishing off with your inhale to roll yourself all the way back up to the top. So now we're going to go into our legs over series, and we will need our barrels, okay? Whether you got your baby arc or your spine corrector, or like me, you're just using the end of the Pilates arc. We're going to place that down onto the ground, okay? You're going to set yourself up on the other end of the barrel, roll yourself back over it, and then use your legs to work yourself over the barrel, holding onto the sides. You want to get yourself into a position where you've got your head on the ground and your shoulders, but your weight should be in the shoulders and thoracic, okay? Not so much the head. Then from there, we're working our spine back over the barrel until we get our feet down onto that barrel, or that pelvis down onto that barrel, I should say. From there, the legs are going to come up to the ceiling. And from there, what we're going to do is we're going to breathe in, and we're going to split the legs front to back today. And so we're not going through the whole legs over, but we are going to do front to back and bicycles, or scissors and bicycles, because these are a great way for us to figure out how to find that pelvic stability with the opening of the thigh, which is really needed in our exercises like our hamstring curl 2, which we're about to do, and our washerwoman 2s after that. So as we work through this, you're trying to find not only the length in the legs, but the anchoring in the pelvis and the connections through that waistline. Seeing if you can find length and separation, yet earthing through that pelvis. Last one. Good. From there, we're going to go into a bicycle, which is still the scissor. Yet when we get down to the bottom, you're then going to bend at the knee, trying to keep that thigh down as it comes back through. Once you've reached out those legs, you're bending the bottom leg, trying to keep the thigh down to cycle it through. And so using this as a way to find that length out through the thigh with the control of the closure at the hamstring and its relationship with the pelvis. So that when we do go through hamstring curl 2 in a second, that is the movement. High pelvis, long knee, bending through. Last one. Good. From there, you can just push your arc out and away. Okay. And if we were to just put the arc to the side and just grab your hand weights so they are close to you, so that when we now go into our hamstring curl 2, which I'm going to keep it at 1 top spring, okay? If you feel like you need a bit more support, go 2 bottom, but it will be harder to move the pedal. We're going to lay ourselves back down like we had for our hamstring curl 1. So that pelvis is just above the knee line, okay? And our heels are onto that pedal itself. From there, finding that setup, that neutral positioning, that pull of the body to the heels or the heels to the body, we're then going to work through our pelvic curl on the breath out. And then once we get to the top here, we're going to find that bicycle pull. So we're keeping the pelvis lifted, knees are long. We're pulling that pedal to our buttocks and back. Give it 2 more shots. Pelvis lifts. Thighs are lengthening as they close at the back. And then roll back down. Good, we're going to do 2 more rounds of that, 3 pulls at the top. Breathing out, we roll it up. Finding that stance through the body. And then from there, taking the length out through the top of the front of the thighs to pull that pedal through the back of the thighs. And even though it is harder, you should see that relationship with the bicycle we just worked on. Good, last round. Just 3 pulls of the pedal towards you will be enough. Good. And rolling down. From here, if your weights are right in your arm line, just grab them, okay? And you can just keep your feet where they are on the pedal for today. So we are going to go through some arm supine work, okay? But once again, we're only really going to go through the overhead stuff now that we're venturing into more of the overhead work, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to start off just with some switches where we're going to breathe in to take opposite arms in their directions, only as far as you feel the expansion at the rib cage to help facilitate that, but you're not levering the whole rib cage in one piece off the ground. Inhale to start the switch. Exhale to close the switch. Just one more each way. Good. Also adding in the shoulder stretch or the overhead. Okay, you're going to breathe in, take the arms overhead. Same deal, they only go as far as you find that expansion in and around the ribs, not a movement of the whole rib cage pulling off the ground. Good, just 3 more here. Two more. And lucky last. Good. You can put your weights away. We're going to bring you up off the ground now, okay? And we're going to set ourselves up for our washerwoman twos. So for our washerwoman two, we can keep it at one top spring, okay? We're going to have our set up from standing behind the chair now, okay? And the same thing as washerwoman one, we're going to work down into the pedal and then use our arms as not the presser, so to speak, but how that connects us straight back into our trunk, okay? So we start by breathing out to roll down to find our pedal. Then from there, what you're going to do is you're going to breathe in and press the pedal away. Once you feel like your body weight's going to go forward, just start to work the thoracic into the pedal a little bit more via the arms. And then breathe out, find your flexion to roll it back. Good, and we repeat again. Breathing in, pressing into that pedal. Once you feel like your weight starts to go forward, just work your thoracic into it. And then breathing out, finding your flexion to come back. Now with this, you can have a little bend in the knees. If you find like your flexibility through that area is a little bit of a challenge. Last one. Good. So from there, we're going to go into our washerwoman's, and I'm going to keep it on the same spring again, okay? Oh, sorry, not our washerwoman's. We're going to go into our side reach. We've just done washerwoman's. Done our side reach, and I'm going to keep the spring the same again, okay? And so from here, we're going to go sitting sideways onto the chair. You want to be able to set yourself up that you're not sitting on top of your buttocks, but into the side or the corner of that cheek to be able to bring that other leg out flat and pressed into the ground. Grab a little box if you need to, if you can't reach the ground quite well. From there, the other hand comes into the pedal just in front of your shoulder line, okay? From there, we're going to breathe in. Once again, we're pushing the pedal away from the chair, so as in it's going out and over to where my arm is pointing. And then as we bring it back, we're pulling that pedal back in towards the chair and our hips. And so as we go away there, that will help us find the expansion in and around that thoracic and that waist to go out and down and then back, as opposed to pushing at it and we lose all that thoracic itself. Just give me 2 more here, please. Working for that reach out and back. Good, and then we're going to repeat on the other side. Same rules apply. So finding that setup onto the corner of the buttocks or the cheek. Foot is nice and planted and long. And as we're breathing in, we're taking the pedal down and away. And up. Just 3 more. Reaching down and away. And back up. From there, once again, springs can stay roughly about the same. Okay, I'm staying still on one top for our swan basic. Okay, or our basic swan. And so with that, what we want to do is we want to make sure, so I might spin this around, that we have plenty of room behind us for our legs. Okay, for our setup, you're going to place pelvis on top of the chair itself, and you set yourself up so your shoulders are pretty directly over the pedal itself. And this is important because that push-pull mechanism that we do again is the exact same thing here. And so if we're too far forward, it's going to direct the pull or the extension lower into our back. Whereas if we keep it too far back the other way, it's hard to get any extension at all. So if we stay shoulders over the pedal itself, legs are nice and long, and we breathe in to extend the upper torso as we feel like we pull the pedal back towards our hips. And then breathe out to bring it back down. So the pedal towards our hips helps us get that extension into those sort of shorter ranges at the top, as opposed to if we don't and we just go up, it's very hard to actually find extension in the thoracic. So breathing in, feel like you pull the pedal back via the arms into your hips. And back down. Just give me 3 more. Good. And rest. Last but not least, just after all that extension, it's good for us to get some flexion back into our body, just for a bit of OH&S. Plus we're at the cool down phase of our introductory workout. And so just bringing ourselves up either in the middle of the room or against the wall, just to work through some roll downs. And almost see, after doing all that push pulling with the chair, can we find a bit more of a understanding in our spine now? Because that chair, when we work with it like that, gives us a lot of feedback there. And that we actually understand where all of our vertebrae are, not just a chunk of them, as we breathe out and peel down. Breathe in at the bottom to the back of those ribs. And just like what we did with our washerwoman's, the washerwoman one, keep almost working the arms just figuratively back into you a little bit, so we can keep that frontal connection to the body. So you can let them hang, or if it helps you, even having your hands slide down your thighs to get that understanding. Good, just one more. And so that concludes our introductory to basic Wunda chair community class today. Hopefully you've understood a little bit more about how we can use the pedal to get feedback into our body and to work the body in ways that are needed for the goals of the exercises, by working the pedal in and out as it goes up and down, not just up and down. So using that arc format that the pedal moves on. That way we get better feedback into our trunk. We've got more accessibility into our flexion and extension, and actually better feedback there too. So we're actually working the pedal with our motion, not against it so much all the time. That's what we can use the springs for. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.